which is a great book. It's even better audiobook. It was narrated by Will Wheaton. He did just a bang up job. Okay, so I want to turn this into a singleton as well. So they have that same ability, right? And it's going to come in handy because inside of my various strategies, I can just say, hey, player1.instance, and know that I don't have to pass it into the dependency. I don't worry about any of that. I know it's going to be the only one that's there. So let's go into our core for a second. And I want it to be of type iPlayer. But now there's a few things I need to have in my common project to even know what player is. I need my the iPlayer interface, and I'm also going to need the iGame object interface. So I'm just going to drag this guy up very unceremoniously, and I'm going to delete it from here. And then I've got my iGame object that I also want inside of my common in the root of the domain. Then I'll delete it from there. So everything in the game is going to be upset with us for this but we'll figure it out. Alright, so I suspect we're going to be moving quite a few things into common. Let's just take a quick step back and make sure we're not going to poke ourselves in the face. All right. Typically, I like to put all of my interfaces in something like this. So I think this is a great place for interfaces to go, since those are going to be the contracts. And it's great to have a common place for your contracts. Alright, so let's delete this guy. Let's grab that guy. So the refactor we're doing now is we're saying, okay, so I got this common project that should probably have all of my interfaces in it. And it's a good time to see if something doesn't have an interface. It's going to be referenced from my common. I need to go ahead and make an interface for it. Let's go ahead and delete that. Okay. And we're just going to go through and change these namespaces. So we don't want to pull the hive mind up. But we do want to pull up all this stuff. Really changing the landscape of how this was all put together to be more modular and to really prepare us to architect like a real app. And whether or not I really do want interfaces for all this stuff is going to be a question I will ask once I've moved it all over. So much refactoring. So what we're really saying with all this is we've got our common elements that can be shared freely amongst different projects, and then we've got some really nitty-gritty business logic and implementation stuff that we want one place or the other, right? So all of our really nitty-gritty player class stuff, we really just want to happen inside the core. But all the definitions of those things, like game actions, game events, stuff like that, we can freely share within common because a rendering engine or some other project might need to take advantage of that information. It doesn't need to know how things are done, but it certainly might need to know what the object types are. I think that all looks good. Let me close a bunch of stuff. Here in a second. Alright, let's just run through inside our environment. All that's going to be inside of common now. Game engine inside of our core is still going to have the hive mind. I'm hoping we don't need to bring over the base classes, base game object, because those do have quite a bit of business logic. But we do want types and states and such. Okay, let's take another look. My game object looks good. Actor gender types. Let's go ahead and clean up after ourselves. Alright, so yeah, all these two can also come over. Refactoring does feel good. Oh, no. Okay. Pretty trees. Painting pretty trees. Okay, so we don't want any references to core here, since we're now in common. There is no replacement for just eyes, just using your eyes. Alright, so now we're in player and player action strategy. And what's an anatomy? Oh, yep, we want anatomy, action strategy, and types. In chat, Ant Venom Minecraft asks, how did you learn to code? That's a good question. Started off with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Made the leap to PHP. I had the benefit of some pretty good mentors early on for those languages. Some, like as far as HTML stuff, some very pixel perfect kind of folks that just wouldn't take browser compatibility issue for an answer. And then I moved from PHP to SQL Server. And for SQL Server, I actually went to the Freenode IRC channel and just hung out for a year. And I supplemented this with some classes at school. But honestly, if you sit in an IRC channel and just read and try to answer questions, don't say anything, right? Let other people who are more fluent answer at first. But if you try to answer every question that comes in, you're going to have a really great, rich experience, because people are going to be coming in with real-world questions, and you're going to be able to see their thinking process, their failed attempts, and eventually what experts are saying and how they actually get it right. And eventually you'll find, at least I found, that with SQL, eventually I was answering some of the easier questions, like some of the low-hanging fruit. Someone would come in and say, hey, what's a left join? I'd be like, oh, I know this one, and I'd answer. And I kept doing that until the questions repeated. And I did the same thing for C# for a while. And every time somebody came in and they posted something like JS Fiddle, or they posted something like a paste bin with their code, if I could try to make that application myself or try to recreate it, I would. And it was really that trial error that I learned the best practices. And then again, once I moved to C#, I also benefited from another mentor. Mentors are great. So that's how I learned. And I'm really interested in the watch people code movement, because I think it adds another layer to that. I think that anybody can come along, watch what tools people are using, watch their approach, and just watch how they think through issues, and learn quite a lot. I hope that answers your question. Ant Venom Minecraft. Ant Venom Minecraft. It sounds like random, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying it wrong. Alright, back to this guy. So, we also need these fun things. Alright, they're just, oops. But we don't need the concrete implementations. So this is where we're drawing the line. It's like we want the descriptions for things, like how they're defined, their class structures and all that, but we don't want the actual concrete business logic or implementations. That doesn't actually belong in our common folder. So we'll leave that, but we'll add a folder for inventory. We'll grab all these guys, throw them in, and we'll delete them from here. And again, we're following this domain structure, so